It's 2022 and cubic competitions are starting to return. Here are my top 10 tips on how to prepare for a competition, whether it's your first time or you need a refresher. Let's go. Number 1, make sure you register on time. Once you find a competition you can attend, take note of when registration opens. Many comps are full within days, some even under an hour from opening, so I always set myself a reminder. Oh, and make sure you pay your registration fees to officially join the competitors list. If not, you'll simply put on the waiting list and might not end up getting a spot. Number 2, know the details of the events you're competing in. Say you've signed up for Pyraminx at the upcoming Wakefield Open 2022. Go to the events tab here and you'll see that it has a time limit of 2 minutes and a cutoff time of 30 seconds. That means that if you take more than 2 minutes to solve the Pyraminx, it'll be considered a DNF or did not finish. And if you take longer than a cutoff time of 30 seconds, it means you won't get to complete all 5 solves after your second one. That's usually done to keep the day moving quickly. Of course, don't let this put you off trying hard things. So far, I've never made the cutoff time for 7x7, but I always try anyway. And fun fact, it's easier to withdraw from an event rather than sign up at the last minute, so challenge yourself to try new things. Number 3, practice solving the cube under comp conditions. I usually use a phone to time my solves, but in the week leading up to the comp, I pull out an actual timer and mat and practice doing it the proper way. Starting and ending with both hands on the timer takes getting used to. Sometimes I even use a cube cover. Some people will even practice in a noisy setting or with the crowd noise playlist that they find on YouTube to simulate the actual environment of the competition. Of course, you can use earmuffs at the comp, but I prefer to take it all in. The point is to get used to what it will feel like on the day. Oh, if you're finding these tips useful, please consider subscribing for more helpful and fun cubing videos. Number 4, do not learn new algorithms the week before. Okay, this isn't a do or die rule, but generally speaking, it's not advisable to try and master a brand new skill when you should be reinforcing the ones you already know. Now yes, I do know people who literally learned how to solve a cube, for example, the day before a comp, but I'm thinking more about those who think, okay, I'm gonna become full PLL in the next few days so I'm comp ready. It often causes you to trip up on the day, which is why it's not recommended. Number 5, make sure you're familiar with the regs. And by that, I mean the official WCA regulations. There is a lot to read there, but I personally think that at some point, every competitor should at least have had a quick look through them. They cover things like what cubes you can and can't use at a comp, things that will result in a time penalty, what the roles of the competitor and the judge are, and much more. For example, did you know that if you're solving a cube one-handed and your cube pops, you're only allowed to repair the cube with your solve hand? Using the other hand instantly disqualifies that attempt. Of course, if this is your first comp, the organizers will go through on the day the key stuff that you need to know, so don't stress. But it's definitely worth looking at the regs. Number 6, bring the right cubes. Avoid doing what I did when I once flew to Tasmania for a competition without a 5x5. If you're lucky, someone might lend you a cube, but you may not be used to it. You should of course have one cube of each of the events that you're solving, but I always bring a second, which I use as a warm-up cube. Once you submit your puzzles to be scrambled, you can then have the other cube with you in the waiting area, which is very useful for keeping your hands warmed up for the solve. And if you're blind solving, make sure you bring your blindfold and that your cube does not have a logo on it. A tip I got from Panda Cuba is to write your name on the underside of a center cap because it's really easy to misplace cubes at competitions. I mean, there are literally hundreds of them everywhere. Of course, if you're wondering where to get cubes, look no further than dailypuzzles.com.au. They have multiple versions of every WCA puzzle at great prices, as well as the best discount code, and a great loyalty program. Highly recommended. Number 7, prepare your camera if you're using one. Many people don't record their solves because of the extra complication and stress, and that makes a lot of sense. Some ask their friends or their parents to record it so they don't have to worry about the equipment, and that also makes sense. But if you really want to record it yourself, there are just a few important things to take note of. Firstly, the camera screen can't be facing you during the solve, so if you're using your phone, for example, you shouldn't be using the front-facing camera. Secondly, you cannot interact with the camera once the solve starts, or it'll result in a DNF, even if the camera folds over. I found the easiest solution to just be a GoPro. I hit record as soon as I sit down, and I don't think about it until the very end. Just make sure the batteries are charged. Number 8. Know exactly when you're on in the competition schedule. The program for the day can be found in the schedule tab right here on the website, but you're usually given additional information prior to the competition as well. For example, which group you're in or which station you should go to. Read all of that info really well so you don't miss anything or show up late. Once again, I speak from experience, but at my second competition, I did not read that I was meant to submit my cubes for multi-blind at a certain time, and so wasn't permitted to compete in that event. Totally my fault, but also totally avoidable. It's also worth knowing when the break times are, and you're welcome to bring snacks and other things to pass the time. Oh, and if it's your first competition, make sure you bring photo ID. It needs to be seen to create your official WCA ID. Number 9, before a solve, get into the zone. And by that, I mean your relaxed state where your fingers do what you want them to do and you're ready to solve quickly. You will 100% feel nervous on the day. That's normal for everyone, even the top solvers. But knowing how to get into your zone will bring the stress down a little bit. I personally warm up by doing solves with the respective cube about 10 minutes before my event starts and avoid being distracted by too many things. In fact, I find it helpful to not even think about like what my previous PB was or who's watching me, so I can just focus on the solve and do my best. Number 10, have fun and enjoy. This could be the most important tip of all because after all, if you're not enjoying the competition, why are you even there? Take in the atmosphere, the sound of cubes being turned all around you, the thrill of doing great or not so great. It's all part of the crazy experience that is cubing. Besides, if you relax and enjoy the day, chances are you'll solve even better. So don't forget what it's all about. Can you think of other tips to help you at a competition? Leave it in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video, maybe even at a competition. Happy cubing!